We are live. Hello and welcome to another week of Let's Talk About Star Trek Lower Decks. Hi there. I'm Michael, aka the Trek Lad, and thank you for joining me for this week's episode. So, we have finally probably the greatest Star Trek episode title ever. Fight me on that. This week's episode of Lower Decks is called Moist Vessel. And I'm sure my guests who are going to join me in a second are going to have a lot of fun laughing about all aspects of that title. So this episode, it's just to sum it up, the plot coming as, well, courtesy of our friends over at Memory Alpha. No idea who those people are, but thank you for being so wonderful. The Moist Vessel. Captain Freeman seeks the ultimate payback after Mariner blatantly disrespects her in front of the crew. A well-meaning Tendi accidentally messes up a lieutenant's attempt at spiritual ascension and tries to make it right. But there's a lot of stuff that happens in this episode. We're going to unpack it. We're going to talk about all the stuff that we liked in this episode, all of the stuff that we might not have liked so much, but I'm sure we will be talking very, very positively about this episode. If you haven't already, please consider giving this video a like and please subscribe to my channel. We do this every week, as I said, and we are also bringing some new live streaming content starting on Monday with Monday Night Wharf. Yes, Monday Night Wharf. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but I'm sure it will be fun. If you're watching this on replay, hello, thank you. If you want to get involved in the comments, I will be going through the live chat comments as we go through this episode. But if you are watching this on replay, let me know what you thought of Lower Decks' Moist Vessel. Let me know in the comments below and let's have a chat about it. Right, that's the housekeeping out of the way. Let's bring in my guests in no particular order. I've got some wonderful guests joining me this week. First, let's welcome to the show for the first time. He's one of my faves. His name is Albert Hogan. Hello, Albert. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Trek Lad. Doing really well, thanks.
Good to see you for the second time today. A bit of a Trek Lad over... Lots of Trek Lad today.
Trek Lad Thursday. I'm here for it, man.
Trek Lad Fuddy. Can't go wrong with Trek Lad Thursday. I'd also like to welcome at this time, he's pretty much a semi-permanent fixture of everything that I do here, particularly Let's Talk About Lower Decks. You know him as, I mean, his name's Dan, but his real name is the Commodore. Welcome, the Commodore. How you doing, buddy?
Sensors indicate that I am doing really well. I've discovered the universe is balanced on the back of a koala. Why is he smiling? What does he know?
Mate, we're going to get into that because I think that generated the biggest laugh from me over this entire run. I literally couldn't stop laughing at that moment, and I thought I was broken. Let's bring in our third and final guest. He's been here before in various guises. I think he joined us on the very first Let's Talk About Star Trek panel where we were trying to work out who was better, Kirk or Picard, and I don't think we ever really got a finite answer. But please welcome. Well, he's an android. He's not really an android. We're not sure. We're still trying to work it out. Apparently androids don't exist, but I don't believe that. Please welcome to Let's Talk About Lower Decks, JJ, aka Albert Android. How you doing, buddy?
Hello, I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on again. Can't believe you made this mistake twice.
Everybody gets two. Everybody gets two, and then that's it. You're out on your ass. But no, guys, it's tremendous having you here. Thank you so much. If you're in the chat, thank you so much for joining. Thanks for joining, Rob. Thanks for joining, Margaret. Robbie, as ever. Robbie, you are a legend. We got Icho Kurosaki. I probably butchered that. And we've got Jill. Hello, welcome. Do let me know, or let us know what your thoughts were for Lower Decks' Moist Vessel. And before we do get going as well, we have one more thing to do. This episode is going to contain spoilers. Spoiler alert. There we go. We've got a new spoiler warning. So if you've not seen this episode of Lower Decks, go away, because we don't want to spoil it for you. Wait until Alba's gone. Alba hasn't seen it yet. If you haven't seen the loudest chair in the history of the universe as well, if you haven't seen this episode, we don't want to spoil it for you. We don't want to be responsible for your loss of enjoyment. It's a really funny episode. Go away, watch it, come and join us back on the replay, guys. Moist Vessel. First of all, let's start with the episode title. When I saw it in the running order, not knowing anything about the episode, this was a few weeks ago, and I saw there was an episode called Moist Vessel. I laughed at that. Albert, what are your thoughts on the episode title?
I mean,
Oh,
which one was you talking to?
It's don't forget, JJ, you are Android. So when I say Albert, I'm talking to Albert, and your name isn't Albert anyway. So shut up, Android. Albert, what did you think of the episode title name, Moist Vessel?
I mean, I think I'm with you there in that it's probably the best title of an episode ever in Star Trek. And I can't help but say it in a voice like when Troy was taken over by the Paxons in Clue. So it's like, Moist Vessel. It's quite hard to say, which is fun too. So yeah, I'm all for the double entendres. Love it.
Android, what were your thoughts on watching an episode called Moist Vessel?
Well, let's put it this way. You just know that somewhere somebody is cringing under a table when you say the word moist. It's just... I think that it's the best. I agree with you. It is the best title ever for any kind of TV show. So I just love it. Absolutely love it.
Commodore, are you with us?
Well, since we are currently experiencing a little downpour from Hurricane Laura, Moist Vessel is part of our lives here, or to entertain a few folks, a moist vessel.
A more. I love it. I love it. I honestly, I mean, I'm gonna have to explain this probably, but me and the term moist, we go way, way back. And I do have a group of friends who we essentially have like a mini community with me and my friends where we take great pleasure in using the word moist. I'm not sure if it's the same over your way, Commodore, but here in the UK, saying moist will get people either cringing or they'll go, yeah, moist. It's just one of those words, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a universal. Yeah. There's been studies. It's like see you next Tuesday. There's a reason you either are for or against it.
It's a great title and good episode too. I mean, it took a while for me to kind of understand where they were going because it's following the TNG. It's not so much like Discovery episode titles where they can be a little kind of little contextual, might be a little nuanced with their meaning and things like that. TNG's episode titles were always kind of like, this is the name of the episode, and the name of the episode probably ties in with what's going to happen. And we've seen that so far with Lower Decks. Every episode title has been directly tied in with the core theme and story of the episode. And it took a while for me to kind of clock on to what was going on. But when it hit, I mean, a lot of fun. Let's talk about what we enjoyed, because I mean, I read the synopsis there. Captain Freeman getting fed up with Mariner, so comes up with all these kind of ways to try and get her to leave the ship. I do think we've also got an answer to. There was a question a couple of weeks ago. Does Freeman know Mariner is her daughter? Well, the answer is yes, because I think there were a couple of occasions where I think Mariner actually called her mum, so I think that's been answered now. But there's Tendi with the Ascension, which got me giggling a little bit more with the aforementioned Koala. But there was also Rutherford. He got up to some stuff, but Boimler as well had some funny moments too. Let's go around the room. Let's get some thoughts on what you guys thought of the episode. Android, what were your favorite moments from the episode, and what are your overall thoughts on Moist Vessel?
Oh, there's just the way you say that, buddy. That's just I'm gonna have
moist.
To go oh, stop it. To be honest with you, I just loved the fact that there was so much going on. So you weren't just concentrating on one character and one state. Because I mean, you've got Tendy's storyline in there with the Ascension. You've got Mariner's storyline in there with the mum parent, sort of story there, and I think, to be honest with you, there was just enough drama in that, mixed in with humor and just throwaway jokes and stuff like that, that just made it thoroughly enjoyable. I mean, personally, I like the fact that they mentioned Q and the Traveller in there. There's name drops going in, Easter eggs going on all over the place. Was the generation ship? Was that with all the terraforming things that was going on in the episode? Was that a nod to the Genesis project from the original films? I don't know. I'd like to think it is. Maybe I'm wrong. But I just love the fact that this. I'm a fan of I'm a fan of Mariner, by the way. That's going to become very apparent as time goes on. But I just love the sass. I just love the pure sass of that character in this episode, and especially the Vulcan, the whole thing with Freeman. I've just loved that as well. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. As you can probably tell.
Albert, what did you enjoy about Moist Vessel? Moist Vessel. What were your favourite aspects?
So I agree with a lot of what Andrew was saying. So I mean, there was something interesting going on for all the characters, and it was nice that we had a little bit of distance this episode between Boimler and Mariner, that they actually were kind of doing their own thing in a way. I loved Tendy's story because as someone who myself deals with social anxiety, it just felt like a really kind of honest storyline for her. And I just really enjoyed seeing like the crap jobs that the ensigns have to do on the ship. And it made me wonder, if this is what the ensigns are doing, what the hell are the non-commissioned people doing? Because they must be doing some really terrible stuff. So I really enjoyed it. It felt like we were getting the promise of the show, which was seeing what really goes on in those lower decks. So for me, it was a lot of that. And then I just loved the whole Ascension thing, because it just felt like a real fun play on what is a bit of a trope in sci-fi. So lots to love in this one, and actually felt the most Trek of the episode so far for me as well, because there was a lot of heart to it too.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that too, but we'll get on to that. Finally, Commodore, closing remarks on the aspects of the episode that you liked. What did you dig about it, with the exception of the koala?
Oh, right. Actually, quite a lot. First of all, I'll just answer Jill's question real quick in the chat. I'm in Arkansas, so we're getting quite a bit of juice from the old Hurricane Laura here. But I love Mariner. But I mentioned on Twitter that they've pulled a bait and switch on us, and they're sneaking a character-driven, somewhat of a drama into this adult animated comedy they promised us. And while it isn't just always going to be that, they're obviously building something. And I think this speaks to what we might get a little bit more of in Strange New Worlds, where we see character development through episodic storytelling. So you can dip in where you are, and you'll know what you know about the characters in that episode, but you are rewarded for watching all of it. And I loved that. I channeled every bit of Tindy in this. I felt so much. Yeah, you're nodding, Michael. You know what's up. There was so much Tindy, Dan and Tindy in this episode, and so I just felt that a lot. And I knew every bit of what was coming. I saw it from way back when she was so excited. I was like, oh, there's going to be something that she just blows all the hell, and true to form. And in every best intention, just trying to help Ed, struggling to understand, why doesn't this person like me? It was great. Yeah, and then the way it wrapped up at the end, just like you said, a second time in a row that I've laughed enough that I thought I might have woken someone up, because I am up that early watching it. But maybe we say it every episode, but this, again, it just keeps building. So I think that's why each episode is the best episode, because they are subtly building. And so you're not just hitting the reset button, even though it does, the stories do. And that ship, the generational ship, gave me some real Lex vibes. It looked like a ship right out of Lex. So
I do like let's quickly go back to something that you mentioned, the idea that everything that's happening in Lower Decks at the moment it's not exactly groundbreaking. It's not exactly, changing the game, so to speak. It's all very formulaic storytelling from a narrative perspective. The story is as basic as you can get. The characters is where that kind of depth comes in. But where I think Lower Decks' strength is it's deconstructing the universe that we know, and when it's doing that, it's finding that kind of wiggle room to get that comedy in there, because we're laughing at them essentially disrupting the status quo. The things that we've taken for granted in the Star Trek universe, particularly the TNG era of Star Trek. They're just basically taking everything that we know about that universe and just ripping it up, and not ripping it up, but just kind of lifting it, putting some jokes in underneath it, and we're going, yeah, I like that. So I think that's where the show is winning for me. And I think this is one of the best ones so far, because you've got so much stuff going on, like, the alien ship, coming across this artifact, working together with another ship. You've seen that in Star Trek in the past, kind of ships and crews commingling. And you would think that there would be some kind of competition, as we saw with I can't remember the name of the other Cerritos. It's the same kind of shit. That's it. That's the Merced.
Got it in the chat there.
There we go. It's just another California place name. Thanks, Corey. But it's just taking the things that we know and take for granted in the Star Trek universe and just kind of turning it ever so slightly. And I think that that's really where I'm getting my enjoyment from. Albert,
we finally got to find out what the holodeck is really used for, which I thought was really entertaining.
Well, that's the best example. That's the best example of finding comedy in the stuff that we've kind of long laughed at anyway. We've long gone, yeah, Riker's dirty. Riker uses that holodeck for some nasty, nasty shit. And we now have confirmation.
And maybe that's the moist vessel they're referring to. You just never know.
I love it. I mean, I will say that I've been, and I still am to a degree of the belief that this show can push it in terms of being an adult comedy a little bit more. It can definitely rev that and put that into another gear. I think they're not even in first gear at the moment. They're just basically lifting the clutch up a little bit. But the moist vessel, the holodeck stuff, it's getting there. I think for the people that are making this, it's all about understanding how far they can push it. And as they get more confident, I think that's going to come.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's talk about the mixture of characters here, because I think that this is the first episode where we find the perfect balance between Mariner, Boimler, Tendi, Rutherford. I think Rutherford probably gets the shorter end of the stick this week, but we also have the more senior crew getting some really good timing as well. I think it was just the best balance they've had so far. Android, is that something that you saw as well? Is that something you agree with?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we actually get a Tellarite in a Star Trek episode, you never see them. I mean, I think you briefly see them in Discovery at some point, I think. But yeah, I mean, that and the fact that, I mean, what I loved about the spread of the characters was they had the stories, but they were connected in a way, but different. So you could actually watch them individually. I mean, for example, you've got Tendi's obsessed with this, like, do people like her and stuff like that, and that's going off. But then you can switch out of that and switch into Boimler's jealousy of, which he clearly is. It's like, how did she become a lieutenant? I'm doing everything. And because they had that sort of, they weren't concentrating on just one character, and they were doing that and switching out between the different stories, I think that's what made it the best one yet for me, definitely. And including another crew was a great touch, I think, as well, because that puts the Cerritos into a bit of perspective. Because I think that sometimes you lose that perspective when you get a ship in a bottle sort of program or episode, and just bringing that second. And again, the competition. it's there. There seems to be competition throughout this whole episode, and you've got that sort of like, well, we're the lead ship in this. This is our mission. We want to be closer to the ship, and then that's when everything starts going wrong. Yes, the dog agrees. But yeah, I think it was brilliant. It's going to be hard to pick this apart later on, to be perfectly honest with you, but we'll get to that in due course, I'm afraid.
Albert, balance. Do you think this episode did a good job?
Yeah, I really do. It felt like we learned something about most of the main characters, even just like what they revealed about Ransom and his love of Barcelona and acoustic guitar. It just felt like a great little character thing that, you know, you wouldn't have necessarily expected. And then we get to see him on the bridge doing the classic Riker maneuver, chatting up the lady at Tactical with, you know, talking about the Iberian Peninsula. It's just very clever stuff. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right. You know, it was good for Tendi to come to the fore a bit at long last. It felt like she's been sort of the shortchanged one up till now. And it just made me really excited to learn more about her. And I'm really keen to see Tendi and Mariner get together and see what those two can get up to, because there was a little bit in the pilot and it was quite fun. So I want to see the two female characters get together and see what they get up to as well. But yeah, and overall it felt really interesting. And, you know, I loved the kind of lifting the curtain from the lower decks perspective on what the senior crew do day to day. And, you know, a lot of those meetings where they were talking about chairs and stuff felt really familiar to me as someone who's sat in those kind of meetings going, we'll have the red chairs, no, we'll have the blue ones. That's what leadership really is. So I quite appreciated that as well, that we got to see a bit of insight into those more senior characters as well, and the excellent poker game and how everyone just folded. I thought it was really funny as well.
Senior,
so yeah, lots of good stuff there.
Senior, but still extremely mundane, to the point where I think that I would be passing up promotion opportunities as well if I had to go and choose a seat. I mean, I'm in space. We're towing a giant alien vessel that can terraform planets. I don't want to talk about chess. I did also like the touch where when Ransom is chatting up the tactical officer, he's doing the Riker maneuver on the captain's chair. Just the visual gag that I absolutely just loved so much. Commodore, we were talking about Tendi, because I want to talk about Tendi's subplot. It's actually, I mean, I think it's pretty much the defined B plot of the episode, and I think it's the first time Tendi's really had this time to really shine, which is great. We've been, you know, kind of calling for Tendi to get moments. I know we're only episode 4, and we knew it was going to happen, but it's good to see it. Tendi's a character that you see a lot in yourself in. Let's talk about her arc. What were your thoughts on this, and where did you chuckle or perhaps cringe a little bit at some of her actions? What are your thoughts there, Commodore?
Just, you know, I'd like to ask one question first. Have the Tellarites ever done anything useful? I mean, and the fact that this is another lower deck
they formed a federation.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we had to help them out. There's an episode of Enterprise where we show up and help them out. This guy causes trouble. He's obviously got an inferiority complex. Again, this is another California class, the Merced. Note that it has a blue accent as a science support vessel per the context. But anyway, to your point, Michael, Trek Lad, yes, a lot of myself and Tendi mostly cringing, just because it's kind of like death and stupidity. It only hurts other people. And you don't have an idea when it's happened. So, you know, she's just over herself trying to help this guy after she completely fumbles. And, you know, like through shared drama, they end up being on the level. And it turns out, you know, maybe there was something there. And then straight up, he's literally sucked into the universe. And that bit where he's like, "Oh my God, it burns. Why does it hurt? I don't want to ascend." And, because every other depiction of ascension has always been, "Oh," and he's like, "Oh,
I don't like this.
I don't like this at all." Every bit, every moment of the ascension bit was just, I saw hints of the Last Airbender in there, and just a whole lot of really great callbacks to classical animation. But then the joke was just tremendous. So, but yeah, it's that's what Star Trek does best, though, in any forms. And I think that's where I do like a lot of something about each incarnation of Trek, and with this, just proving the point that maybe Tendi isn't my character next week. Maybe it's Boimler, who was great in this episode. His envy is palpable, but finding that identity in the characters we see on screen, and where else am I going to identify with a young Orion ensign on a starship?
That's the beauty. That's the beauty of Lower Decks. I will say this, and here's a question that I want to pose to all three of you: is these episodes are about 23 minutes in length, each and every week. That's the format of this show, and yet we're getting so much character development. I feel like 4 episodes in, we are knowing more about these characters as we go, in a way that we, and I'm going to be honest here, in a way that I felt that we haven't got in Discovery, particularly with the bridge crew. It took a long time for us to get to know them, and truthfully, I still don't know any of their names. I just don't. I mean, tear me apart if you want to. I still don't know their names. Do you think that Discovery can learn lessons from what Lower Decks is doing? Android, what are your thoughts there?
Well, I think it's a little. I think, to be fair, Lower Decks is working as well as what it is because it's animated. It's able to get away with what it does because it's animated. You wouldn't be able to do a lot of the things that they do in a live action shoot, and you probably could, but I don't think it would land the same way. I think they're two different. I think they're two completely different. I
mean, they're still telling stories, though, aren't they? So it's kind of it's the ability. So the animated and the live action doesn't really come into it. Lower Decks in 4 episodes has been able to build characters and develop character relations intertwined in 4 episodes better than Discovery has in 26.
I mean, I personally enjoyed watching Discovery, but it's one of those, I think, where, and I think if they did a little bit more per episode, and sort of contracted it a little bit to each episode, I think it would work a lot better. So I think that's something that they could learn from Lower Decks. But personally, I think it's a tough one because I do enjoy Discovery, and I don't sort of share the sentiment there, to be fair. But
I mean, I wasn't saying that I dislike Discovery. I'm just saying
no, but
yeah,
so, I think to be honest with you, just a little bit more, instead of sort of dragging it out over several episodes, maybe just bring some of the stories a little bit closer and a little bit tighter. Maybe the pacing, I think, is something they could learn from a little bit.
Sure. Albert, what are your thoughts with regards to that?
I think where Discovery could probably learn something is around how they do those kind of quieter character moments. So the sort of more human to human interaction or human to alien interaction, depending on the characters. But a lot of the character development in Discovery is so linked to the plot because it's, the serialized element. It's very linked to that. Whereas Lower Decks is sort of like a family sitcom, and it doesn't pretend to be anything else. And therefore, they find the humor and the kind of in those quieter moments between characters. So I think that's more of what I'd like to see on Discovery. And the bits where we have seen the bridge crew, like on Discovery, having lunch together, or that brilliant moment in the second last episode of season 2 where they all come together to support Burnham. Like, they're the moments where you kind of really fall in love with the characters. And I'd just like to see a bit more of that, rather than we're going to do a big bridge scene with each character having a line that kind of is in service to the plot. So that's probably what I think they could learn more about. But I still have enjoyed the way that Discovery's gone about it. So it's a different format, different spirit to the show. But I think there's definitely stuff they could learn from each other, actually.
And I put it to you, Dan, do you think that Discovery will learn anything from what Lower Decks is doing?
Well, I would like to hope so, because I'm going to say something that may surprise and delight, or surprise and shock some of y'all. But much like the episode 1 of that other star-themed franchise, you can pretty much extract season 1 of Discovery and not miss a lot. You could string together a good movie out of the great moments from season 1 and still have the same impact, just like you can watch the pod race in that other franchise and really enjoy that. And that's not to say that I want to see that happen. I loved Discovery season 1, but to the point, they're being very judicious with their time on Lower Decks. They have it comes from that fast-paced, modern, adult animated storytelling style that spawned with regular show and Adventure Time, and has moved in with Rick and Morty and so on, which take it back to like Aqua Teen Hunger Force. These modern, more adult-oriented animated shows, they had to be good with their time, because that's the format. Some of them tell that bit of the story in 11 minutes, some of them use the full 22, and so we're getting the benefit of that. Now, will we see that soon? I think we're going to see the payoff maybe sooner in like something like Strange New Worlds than we will Discovery. I think just season 3 is probably too far locked when we got to what we got with Lower Decks for it to have an influence. But since Lower Decks has been renewed, Discovery season 4 is probably going to be renewed. You could expect if we ever get anything, right? And that's the beauty. And we haven't seen this in some time, because we've never had this much Trek working together. We've only ever had slight overlap with TNG and DS9, and slight overlap with DS9 and Voyager, and no overlap between Voyager and Enterprise as far as congruent production. But this is the first time we've had so much happening with Trek at the same time. And I hope we see that synergy. I hate to use that word, but I hope that we see it, because I would hope that's why we're doing this. I would hope that's why we have 23 weeks of new Trek, 19 weeks left now. But yeah.
Don't remind me, because it will all be over soon, and we'll all be sad. But when you said synergy, I could see Albert going, "Oh no, that takes me back to this morning."
Everybody died a little. I know. I'm so sorry. We all died a little that day.
What I really liked about this episode, in fact, no, actually, scrap that, because I'm going to talk about that later. One of the things that I want to talk about is the fact that we're 4 weeks in, and I've gone from being no, that's not fair. I've enjoyed Lower Decks since it premiered. There have been a lot of people, actually probably not a lot of people, there have been people, let's just say people, who have been very hard on Lower Decks. Very, very hard. I mean, making long documentaries about how much they hate it, saying they're not going to watch it, they're not going to review it, they can't tolerate Star Trek being a comedy, all this kind of crap. Do you think that 4 episodes in, the show has the potential to win some of those people over? Albert, what do you think?
I think so, yeah. I think what the show does really well is it sort of, to your earlier point, it leans into the franchise, and it lifts the lid in places in sort of unexpected ways. And I think that's been the real delight for me, are the sort of little Easter eggs that you see through. And I think they're now finding the right balance in 4 episodes in, of still giving the fans something to chew over and make YouTube videos about, but are also finding their own footing. So I think I'm pretty sure a lot of these people are watching it. They're just saying they're not. I think it will definitely win people over, and especially because at the heart of it, it's still everything Star Trek is about, which is family and adventure and really brilliant characters who are on a journey. And that's, that was completely evident in this episode. So I think it will. It's the same with every new Star Trek show. There's always the naysayers, and eventually, with the benefit of time, they quieten down. So, I think the response I've seen has been overwhelmingly positive, and long may that last, and hopefully, we'll continue to see more Trek coming out that people enjoy and bringing in new fans, and that's what ultimately it's about. So.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think as well the fact that we as hardened Trek fans, we know that any new Star Trek production, it needs time, right? It's not going to be wham out of the gate an instant classic. No Star Trek show ever is, with the exception of Deep Space Nine, which if anybody says Deep Space Nine season 1 isn't very good, we can't talk anymore. But Android. Thoughts on the progression of Lower Decks and people eventually do you think that there are people at home going, I hate Lower Decks, and then they're watching it and they're like, that's funny, I like this? Do you think we have closet Lower Decks fans is what I'm trying to say?
I definitely think so. I mean, one thing we have to remember is that throughout the history of Trek, there's always been the haters. But when TNG first arrived, it was like that's not Star Trek because it's not Bones, it's not
there's a Klingon on a bridge.
That as well, exactly. And funnily enough, there's not very many people that dislike it now, many years into the future. So I'm quietly confident that this will be the same with Lower Decks. But one of the things I think is going to work in Lower Decks' favour is because they're so short, it plays into that natural attention span that we as human beings have, where anything longer than a certain period of time, we start to lose interest. And I think that works well with Lower Decks because it's short, it's sharp, it's boom, boom, boom. Oh, hang on a minute, it's over. I want to see what's happening next week. It leaves you wanting more. And I think if people just give it the time to sit down and watch it, I think they'll like it. Not everybody's going to like animation. Not everybody's going to like comedy. It's one of those things. We're not going to get everybody, but I think I'm quietly confident that I think it will grow very quickly in popularity. As soon as it gets syndicated across the globe, instead of once that happens, I think
let's not talk about that. It's still not good. It's not good. Commodore, I want to talk to you about something because, and again, it might be good to get the opinions of the room. I'm going to say something here, and it'd be interesting to see your faces to this. Right, 4 episodes in Lower Decks, and if we're taking every show in the Star Trek franchise as is. And we're comparing, like for like, 4 episodes in on each first season. I think this is the strongest start to any Star Trek series ever. Commodore, anybody? You want to disagree with me?
Yep. Oh, disagree? No, I do not want to disagree with you.
I think you've got a consensus there, I think.
Yeah. To that point, though, Michael, I would like to say 2 things real quick to circle back to modern Trek bringing in new fans. One of my dearest and oldest friends, TJ Mahaffey, at TJ Mahaffey on Twitter, is watching Discovery for the first time. And he's a casual Star Trek fan. He knows what Star Trek is. He's seen some. He doesn't rewatch like we do. I don't understand that lifestyle, but here we are, and we love everyone in the Trek community. But he's every bit a fan as any of the rest of us. And he texts me as he watches, and he tells me this and he tells me that. And love him. He thinks, he doesn't want to pester me, and I'm like, dude, I want to know what you think. And it validates because all of the things that he says he's loving about it are the things people have said they hate. So I think that's working. It's I'm not going to disagree with what you said because there's nothing to disagree with there. This is the best 4th episode in a first season of Trek. You could go back and maybe watch the 4th episode of the original series and compare it there because but what this has is the benefit of 55 years of lore and the freedom to just shred it. No other Trek show has had this much freedom to be this self-referential and with such irony than this show has to get started with, and that's part of its strength. And one more point I'd like to make: Ransom is a damn fine first officer, actually. He really is there to watching out for the captain. He's there watching out for his ship. And he's there watching out for his crew. He really is a good first officer.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. Wasn't it him that gave Freeman the idea to give Mariner that promotion, those responsibilities, and she took that, and then he was like, "That's a good idea, Captain." Yeah,
yep,
so
he just let her have it because that's what you do.
That's a good first officer. But it seems like what they've done is they've rolled up. They've kind of taken Riker and Kirk, and they've just the two together. Maybe chucked in a bit of Chakotay as well, and minus the face tattoos. And you've got Ransom, and yeah, I think he's an instant classic character. I think of all the characters, of all the senior characters, anyway, we've not seen enough of Shax, and I still can't remember. Is it Tiana?
Yeah, Dr. Tiana.
Yeah.
Tiana.
Yeah, Tiana. Yeah, I haven't seen enough of those guys yet. I think this was a good episode for Freeman, but a good episode for Freeman and Mariner as well. I mean, it's clear. We're still telling episodic. It's still, it's firmly an episodic show. It's a 23-minute comedy. It's gonna be story, finish, move on. But we do have some threads that are running through this, and I don't think that we need to have some sort of massive end game at the end of this. We can have a thread run through the entire show. I mean, it's like, people for some reason seem to go, oh yeah, well, TNG, every episode was them starting and ending and then starting the next episode in the exact same spot. I don't recall that, because you go from Picard being this dry, world's worst Frenchman, and by the end of it, he's playing poker and he's warms to the crew and they all consider him family. So people do grow in episodics. Sorry, did I tickle you, Commodore? It's the French bit, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I think that we're getting some really good development, and honestly, here's where I stand on this. I still think that last week's episode, Temporal Edict, is probably still my favorite, but they're all just so close together. I think the first one was always going to be the toughest because it was such a jarring kind of jump into this new world, but the 3 episodes we've had since have been very, very, very good, very tightly put together. Albert, what are your thoughts? What are your hopes and expectations for Lower Decks now? Has that expectation bar been set higher? What are your expectations going forward?
Yeah, I think it has. And I think what I've really enjoyed about Lower Decks is how it fleshes out the kind of character of the week. So the guest characters that come in. And I mean, O'Connor, the guy who ascended this week, was voiced by Haley Joel Osment. I mean, that's insane. And that is in itself like a proper meta joke right there. And
I see dead people. And yeah.
There you go. So, I'm quite enjoying the kind of variety of characters that we're seeing that way. I really kind of enjoyed Captain Durango as well, which seems like a strange name for a Tellarite, but there you go. So I think that's what I'm enjoying, because I feel like I know the characters now, and straight out the gate, I got the characters. I could relate to them in different ways. And like the Commodore was saying, each week you feel, oh, I'm a bit Tendy this week, I'm a bit Mariner next week. So I'm enjoying that, but it's just the kind of, almost like we used to have the ship of the week in TNG. It's almost like the kind of character of the week is the thing that's is driving me. And I know, like, next week we're going to have Boimler's girlfriend, and I'll be curious to see how that plays out. So yeah, I think that's been really the thing that I've found most surprising, is actually each character that comes in is pretty much fully realized on arrival, which is good fun. And then that allows them to play around with the conventions and, mess with our heads a bit, which is good fun.
I absolutely freaked out when I found out it was Haley Joel Osment who voiced that character. I was like, that must be the lowest fanfare for a guest appearance I think I've ever heard, and no one knew about it until the end of the episode. And as soon as the credit rolled, I was just like, wow. That's awesome. Yeah, you just reminded me. I completely forgot about it. That's crazy. Haley Joel Osment is in Star Trek. Amazing. Android, same question to you. With the episodes that we've seen so far, your expectation levels, do you think the show can continue to amuse and give you that entertainment that you've been enjoying so far?
I think there has been a bar set. It's not a particularly high bar because we're still relatively early on, but they've set the format. And it's like you said, Albert, it's character of the week, which I think is going to be really good to keep people interested. It's definitely going to keep me interested because I'm actually waiting for next week to find out which character are we going to see. I keep forgetting the name, but the doctor, I keep forgetting the name of that character. That's it. So I want to see more of that. I want to see, and that's what I think is where they've succeeded, is that with me at least, they've got that grab. I want to see what's going to happen. I want to see what story they're going to come up, what jokes they're going to come up with. I mean, that's what I love. I think is they're doing that right, and I think that's brilliant. There's not too much of it, but there's just enough to make it. I mean, stuff like it's called being a dickhead. I don't know if you remember that particular scene. That made me chuckle. And of course, the censor thing at the end. There were the two main things. And it's little things like that. And I think that's the bar. And as long as they don't try and overload it, I think that's going to be brilliant. I think they've really hit the nail. I think.
Yeah, for about half an hour after the end of the episode, I was actually saying censor to myself, and I was going, "Is it censor? Is it censor?" Yeah, it really got me, and I was like, "Wait, how do I say it?" And now I'm like, "Wait, how do they say it in Star Trek?" Because I think Picard goes censors.
Tuvok definitely goes censors.
And Spock does too. It's that mid-Atlantic accent. That's what does it. Yeah.
Yeah. Next week we're officially halfway through Lower Decks. We're halfway through, which is crazy. And to think that, given everything that's going on right now, you have to think that there's probably going to be a delay in us getting more Lower Decks afterwards. Now, I know it's an animated comedy. You don't actually need to go on set and film stuff, so it might not be that much of a wait, but you'd still have to think that, the post-production process is still going to take a while. Animation still takes a long time to make. Next week is episode 5. What are your thoughts so far? 4 episodes in, Commodore, and so far, if the show was to end tomorrow, what would be the legacy of Lower Decks?
I'd like to, 4 episodes in, we know so much about these characters already. The pace has settled. The first episode was so bombastic and so frenetic. It was a packaged, ball of hyperbole, and it got everyone's attention. And they've been able to smooth the curve since then and let these moments develop. And so now with episode 4, we've got something that, I am looking forward to. I don't know if I'll be disappointed next week. Probably more so by the fact we're halfway done than episode 5 will be disappointing. But we'll see when we get there. Like the android said, what character are we about to be introduced to next week? And that's one of the great things about this show. But with just 4 episodes, they were able to set up so much. And if the 5th episode was the end of it, its legacy would be that it really did try to do something different than had been done with Star Trek before. And I think that is, definitely boldly going. And we really kind of need to see more of that in the franchise. And, we're going to have Prodigy coming soon. And hopefully that'll be something new and boundary breaking as well for the youngsters, even though it isn't animated. But yeah, this so far, Lower Decks has gotten me by the heartstrings in a lot of ways and an unexpected way. And this is the first episode where the best bit wasn't spoiled in any of the previews. We get the and that's it. And that's funny But that's not the best bit in the episode, and it's not even the funniest bit in the episode. And that is refreshing to finally be to the point where we're not spoiled, except for here's coming what's next on next week's episode. And if that was something, it made the episode even more fresh, I think, to not have bits of it already taken away.
I think that's something that we've got to look forward to now, because I think we're firmly past the trailer point where, when that trailer came out, I think we only had, 3 solid episodes of material and the little kind of visual to laugh at, and I think we're firmly beyond that, because I don't even think we have an episode title for the next episode. I'm not sure, might be wrong on that, we might already know it now, but that's all entirely new footage, so we're in uncharted territory now. Hello, Kat. And it's cool, it's exciting, and this is my thought on it, really, is that hello, I have probably not had this much fun with Star Trek on TV since, with all due respect to Picard and Discovery, I know it has its fans, but it's with all respect not the Trek for me, and I say that as politely as I possibly can. Lower Decks is doing it for me. Legacy Star Trek, as some people like to say, it feels very legacy Star Trek. And am I one of these people that wants to have Star Trek just regress? No, I think it's very important that we have Discovery and Picard and other shows as well to continue to drive the franchise in a brave new direction. But for people who just want, that Big Mac, that comfort food, Lower Decks is bloody doing it for me at the moment. I do really want to quickly talk, because we've got about 9 minutes left. I want to quickly talk I want to see if there was anything in this episode that you guys perhaps didn't like. This might be a very quick segment, hence the reason why I've kept it to the end. But Albert, is there anything that you could nitpick? Is there anything that perhaps you didn't enjoy so much?
I think it's probably what you said right at the top of this, which is, like, if you want to be an adult comedy, be an adult comedy and go for it. And I think, particularly with a title of Moist Vessel, you wanted to go to, fairly funny places and fairly adult places. So I'm hoping that kind of as it settles over the next few episodes, we'll get a bit more of that. And the only other kind of random thing for me is the bleeped out swearing. I'm just like, put it in, let's hear it. But that's just a personal preference. So yeah, I think that would be it for me, really. Other than that, I absolutely bloody love it.
Android, is there anything that didn't quite do it for you this week?
To be honest with you, I would really be struggling, and I don't think there really wasn't anything. I think everything sort of landed, everything was brilliant. I feel that maybe no, I'm out.
There's nothing. There's nothing.
No.
Love it.
I was struggling to find it there, but it's no.
So I expect a solid 5 out of 5 rating from you in a minute. Commodore, anything that you would change with Moist Vessel?
We said it.
Yeah, they were really ham-fisted with the dynamic between Freeman and Mariner.
And
we're back. Yeah, they played it over and again, and it's just, we get it. There's a dynamic there that isn't quite settled yet. So I would, maybe put something else in a couple of those moments just to have something else to do. And
looks like the Commodore's struggling.
Man, everything is struggling. Yeah.
You're still here. You're still here.
Yeah, just that one part. I'm still here. That one part with between Mariner and her mom overdoing that kind of got me a little distracted.
I reckon there's somebody in the feed that's just a massive Mariner Freeman fan, and they're just like, I don't like what the Commodore's saying. I'm going to shake the internet until Commodore can't speak anymore. No, very, very good point. I agree with you to a degree. I do think that it was the cause of, it was the root of some fun jokes, though, in the episode. I still... Mariner for me, if the people are going to criticize this show for any particular reason, I think Mariner is going to continually be that focal point for hate or aggression or criticism. But the thing is it's quite easy to see what they're trying to do. Now, I've mentioned this week in, week out, but she is very much the Rick Sanchez of Star Trek Lower Decks. She is the very flawed but at the same time perfect character. She is the main protagonist. She is going to be that god level character, and I think that they're going to have some fun with it. And do I really have a problem with it? No, I really don't. There's not enough time on this planet for me to get really fed up with an animated comedy. Really not. But guys, we've got 5 minutes to go. Let's wrap this up. Moist Vessel, Lower Decks' 4th episode. What would you guys give it out of 5? And sum up the episode and tell us why you loved it. Albert, what are you giving this out of 5, sir?
I'm giving it a 5 out of 5 because I thoroughly enjoyed it. Proper laugh out loud moments, and as the Commodore said, some some jokes that we weren't expecting. So that was a kind of a real thing for me. I freaking love the Ascension thing and that whole spoof on that. That just had me in stitches. And I will never ever hear the word censors the same again. So 5 out of 5 for me.
Android, what are you giving out of 5 and why?
Well, I'm going to steal the Commodore's vote, and I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. Pure and simply because I loved every minute of it. I agree with Albert. I mean, the Ascension was the bit where I laughed the most. I loved it. But yeah, it's just, without going into too much detail, every joke landed. The characters were brilliant. Fantastic.
10 out of 10. There we go. Commodore, what would you give this out of? I mean, remember, we're going 5 out of 5. We're not doing 4.75. We're not doing 61 out of 30.
Right.
You know, it's 5 out of 5.
It's not. I got you. Yeah. So, indeed, that is 5 moist stars, each with 5 moist points in this moist episode titled "Moist Vessel." Did I say moist 5 times yet? Moist? No, it was fan-moisting-tastic. It was really great. I'm going to y'all can use that. That's not copyrighted.
Go back in this one.
Man, it's, you know, sometimes my favorite Star Trek is the Star Trek I'm watching at the moment. And that was this morning watching this. It was so fun. It's just, you know, after a long week of not having a lot of fun, this is exactly what Dr. Tiana ordered. McCoy would have been proud to sit down and watch this episode of Star Trek, I think. So
I'm going to give this episode, because I still think the Temporal Edict is just slightly better, and I gave that a 4. I'm going to be the one person in the room that doesn't give it the perfect score, because if I gave it a perfect 5 out of 5, people would go, "What? I mean, is this like the Inner Light or something?" And like, I mean, it's. I will say this though, Dan. I think you perfectly summed it up. My favorite Star Trek is the Star Trek I'm watching right now. What a wonderful line that is, and perfectly sums up how I feel about Lower Decks right now. It's so much fun, it's so light and so enjoyable, and like you said, Albert, as well, it's just leaving us wanting more each and every week. I still think that there are things to iron out. I still maintain that there are issues with tone, that finding the balance between the adult centric comedy that you mentioned, Albert. You know, I still think it's got a ways to go, but you know, as I said, I think it was my first review for the show when it first premiered, was that this has the potential to be one of the best Star Trek productions, and 4 episodes in, I mean, it's hard to argue against it. It really is. I mean, it's the strongest start for a Star Trek show, in my opinion, and I think that was fairly unanimous. Really enjoying it so far. So 4 out of 5 for me, but 5 out of 5 across the board from the rest of you guys, I think, tells everybody the strength of what we're seeing at the moment. Guys, thank you so much for joining me this week for Let's Talk About Lower Decks. You have been amazing. Let's go around the room. Albert, what are you up to right now? Where can the good people on the internet find you?
People can find me on Twitter at Albert Hogan.
Android, where can you be found, sir?
Well, right at the moment in my kitchen, but if you don't want to come to my kitchen, you can find me on at Alba Android, which is clearly displayed right in front of me, or you can have a look at our Spock the Week as well, which you can also find on Twitter at Spock Week.
Commodore, plug us some stuff, sir. Where can you be found? What are you up to right now?
You can always find me on Twitter at Dan Decker, DANDECKR. You can hear me on Bad Choices in Bourbon with all of my guests from the wonderful Twitter community at Bourbon Bad. I want to shout out patron Albert and patron Sean Farrick. Man, I got that right on the first try. Lego Batman. And shout out to all that. But yeah, you can totally find me in those places. Also on Instagram. Come check out the Commodore. Will be returning from shore leave soon. Refreshed and ready for service back in the fleet. So
there we go. Amazing. Exciting times for everybody right now. And also to you guys for joining us in the live chat. Thank you so much. Please join us here again next week. I'm going to have some more super special guests as we continue this journey. Let's talk about Lower Decks. Thank you for joining once again. I've been Michael, aka the Trek Lad. You have been awesome. Until next time, live long and prosper. Woo, doo, doo, doo.